Admiral Vaxon stared at the holographic display with growing irritation, his scaled fingers drumming against the polished obsidian of his command console. The human expansion data scrolled before his 4 eyes, each set focusing on different metrics that made his blood run cold. 14 new medical outposts in the last solar cycle. He spoke the words with barely contained contempt. And now they spread their healing arts to the Proxima sector. Behind him, strategic analyst Zena cleared her throat, the sound reminiscent of grinding stones. Correct, Admiral. The humans have established a remarkable presence in regions previously considered too volatile for sustained operations. Vaxon turned, his towering frame casting a shadow across the briefing chamber. The assembled military command of the Drachnid Empire sat in tiered rows, their attention fixed on the streaming data. And what of their latest vessel? He gestured to a rotating schematic of a massive ship. This so-called Hope-Bearer. Commander Tyxus, head of intelligence operations, stepped forward. His ceremonial armor clinked softly as he manipulated the hologram. It represents their most advanced medical facility to date, Admiral. 3 kilometers in length, staffed by 4,000 personnel, capable of treating over 10,000 patients simultaneously. He paused, mandibles clicking in agitation. But more concerning is its diplomatic impact. Explain. Vaxon's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary set remained fixed on the vessel's specs. The Hope-Bearer has been instrumental in forming alliances with 17 previously neutral systems. Their policy of providing advanced medical care without political conditions has. Tyxus struggled to find the right words. It has made us look primitive by comparison. Murmurs of discontent rippled through the chamber. Vaxon raised a hand for silence, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the tactical displays. Show me their current treatment statistics. New data streams materialized. Disease mortality rates plummeting wherever the Hope-Bearer appeared. Previously incurable genetic conditions eliminated. Even species long considered incompatible with modern medical techniques were being successfully treated. They heal indiscriminately. General Crixus spat from his position near the chamber's apex. Without regard for evolutionary consequence or natural order, they interfere with the very foundations of species development. Vaxon nodded slowly, his outer membrane sliding across his eyes in contemplation. And what of our own populations? What do they whisper about these human healers? The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Zena spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. There have been requests, particularly from the outer colonies. They wish to establish formal medical exchange programs with Earth. The Admiral's roar of rage sent several junior officers scrambling backward. Unacceptable. We are the Drachnid Empire. We have ruled the spiral arm for 10,000 years through strength and natural selection. And now our own people would turn to these soft, short-lived creatures for salvation. He stalked around the command platform, his agitation evident in the rapid color shifts rippling across his scales. Their medicine is a weapon, more insidious than any warship. They weaken the natural order, preserve the unfit, and spread their corruption through acts of mercy. Tyxus stepped forward again, his posture cautious. What would you recommend, Admiral? Vaxon's 4 eyes focused on the rotating image of the Hope-Bearer, a predatory gleam reflecting in each pupil. They think their healing gifts make them untouchable, that their mercy grants them immunity. His mandibles curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. We will show them the error of their philosophy. He manipulated the tactical display, highlighting the Hope-Bearer's projected course. Here, in the Centauri Divide, far from their core worlds, but close enough for the message to be clear, his clawed finger traced the planned attack vector. We will eliminate their greatest medical ship in an instant. Show the galaxy that their healing cannot save them from our might. But Admiral Zena interjected, attacking a medical vessel, even by our standards, is precisely what will demonstrate our superiority. Vaxon cut her off. Their weakness is their compassion. Their fatal flaw is believing that good deeds provide protection. He turned to address the entire chamber. We will strike without warning, destroy without mercy, and when their mighty Hope-Bearer is nothing but atoms scattered across space, let us see how many systems still clamor for their medical expertise. The chamber erupted in approving roars, but Zena noticed something curious. In the Admiral's secondary eyes, barely perceptible behind the bloodlust, was that a flicker of doubt? She made a note in her personal log, encrypted it with her highest security protocols, and added a simple annotation: today, we may have signed our own death warrant. The Hope-bearer drifted through the Centauri divide like a brilliant white swan, its gleaming hull catching starlight from 3 nearby suns. From his command bridge aboard the Dread Sovereign, Admiral Vaxon watched the targeting displays track the massive vessel's graceful progress. "Magnificent, is it not?" Commander Tyxus remarked, standing at Vaxon's side. "Even our engineers admit the design is remarkable. Those extended wings house entire research facilities. The central spine contains enough medical supplies to support a small planet." Report on current patient count. Vaxon kept his voice neutral, though his secondary eyes tracked every movement of the target. Strategic analyst Zena consulted her data streams. 8,412 patients currently aboard, plus 4,000 medical staff. Species count: 73 different civilizations represented. She hesitated before adding, including 300 of our own citizens from the outer colonies. Vaxon's scales darkened momentarily. Unfortunate, but necessary sacrifices for the greater good. He turned to his weapons officer. "Status of our stealth systems." "Fully operational, Admiral. Their sensors show no sign of detecting our battle group. Their shields." The weapons officer paused, mandibles clicking in surprise. "Their shields are minimal, barely enough to deflect standard space debris." Of course, Vaxon rumbled. They never expected to need more. "Display their current activities." The main view screen shifted, showing multiple angles of the Hope-bearer's operations. In one section, a team of human surgeons performed a delicate neural reconstruction on a young Andromedian. Another feed showed a ward full of recovering patients, their beds arranged in a spiral pattern that somehow accommodated dozens of different atmospheric requirements simultaneously. "They're preparing to receive a new group," Zena reported, her voice tight. "A refugee convoy from the Pleiades conflict, mostly civilians, children." Vaxon's outer membrane slid across his eyes. "Time to target." 3 minutes, Admiral." The bridge fell silent as the battle group glided closer, their advanced stealth systems rendering them invisible to the unsuspecting hospital ship. Vaxon watched as a small medical shuttle departed the Hope-bearer, probably heading out to assist the incoming refugee convoy. 2 minutes. And on the display, a human doctor was explaining something to a worried parent, using a holographic model to demonstrate a planned procedure. The parent's relief was visible even through the grainy feed. 1 minute. In the recovery ward, patients of various species were helping each other with physical therapy exercises. A human nurse was singing to comfort a frightened child while changing bandages. 30 seconds. The weapons officer's voice cracked slightly. "Targeting solutions locked. All ships report ready." Vaxon raised his hand, claws extended. On my mark, he watched the Hope-bearer's graceful form fill their view screens. "Fire." The void erupted with light as 12 Drachnid warships decloaked simultaneously, their weapon batteries unleashing devastating barrages. The Hope-bearer's minimal shields collapsed instantly under the assault. The first volley tore through the medical research wings, scattering equipment and bodies into space. "Direct hits confirmed," the weapons officer reported mechanically. "Their power grid is destabilizing." The massive hospital ship tried to turn, but without military-grade engines, the maneuver was painfully slow. A second volley struck the central spine, breaching the huge medical supply warehouses. Frozen medicine crystals sparkled like diamonds as they spilled into the vacuum. "They're broadcasting distress signals," Zena announced. "On all frequencies, begging for." Her voice caught, begging for help evacuating the patients. "Jam their transmissions," Vaxon commanded. "Continue the attack." The third volley struck the residential sections where patients and medical staff had their quarters. Entire decks were blown open to space. Emergency containment fields flickered and failed. The Hope-bearer's brilliant white hull was now marred by massive wounds, its elegant form twisted by the brutal assault. Admiral Tyxus spoke quietly. "They're not returning fire. They have no weapons at all." As expected, Vaxon's scales rippled with dark satisfaction. Final volley. Target their reactor core. The last barrage struck with surgical precision. For a moment, the hope-bearer seemed to glow from within, its wounds blazing with terrible light. Then, with a silent flash that briefly rivaled the nearest sun, the mighty hospital ship erupted into a cloud of superheated plasma and debris. Silence fell over the dread Sovereign's bridge. The tactical displays showed only scattered wreckage where the hope-bearer had been. A few escape pods could be seen tumbling away from the destruction, but they were too few, far too few. Signal, the fleet, Vaxon commanded, his voice steady. Mission accomplished. Prepare for return to base. As the battle group began to move away, Xena spoke again. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. From Earth. Oh? Put it through. The message was text only, broadcast on an open frequency for anyone to hear. Just 4 words that made Vaxon's outer membrane flutter involuntarily. We will remember this. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Vaxon waved their concerns away. Let them remember. Let the galaxy remember. Today we proved that no amount of healing can protect them from our might. As the Drachnid ships vanished into hyperspace, Xena made another entry in her encrypted log. The humans didn't respond with rage or threats. Just 4 words. Why does that terrify me more than any battle cry? Back at Drachnid Prime, the victory celebration was appropriately magnificent. The military high command gathered in the Grand Hall, drinking fermented plasma and boasting of their successful strike. Vaxon received numerous commendations for his bold strategy. But late in the celebration, when the drinks had flowed freely and inhibitions had lowered, Commander Tyxus approached his admiral with unusual candor. Sir, he slurred slightly. Did you see the final casualty count? 12,412, Vaxon replied automatically. A significant statement of our resolve. Yes, but... Tyxus leaned closer, his scales showing signs of stress. Have you ever heard the human phrase sleeping giant? Vaxon's secondary eyes narrowed. Explain. There's an old human story about another power that launched a surprise attack against them. Struck what they thought was a powerful military target. Tyxus took another drink. The humans have a saying from that time. They have awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve. You worry too much. Commander Vaxon dismissed him with a wave. They are soft healers, not warriors. What can they possibly do? As if in answer, every light in the Grand Hall flickered momentarily. Probably just a power fluctuation, Vaxon thought. But he couldn't shake the memory of those 4 simple words. We will remember this. Strategic analyst Xena paced nervously before the massive data wall in her private research chamber. Hundreds of feeds from human space scrolled past her 4 eyes, each more disturbing than the last. She had expected rage, chaos, screaming calls for vengeance. Instead, she watched with growing unease as humanity responded with terrifying precision. Display Terra Prime feed, she commanded. The central screen shifted to show Earth's primary government complex in Geneva. The scene looked remarkably ordinary. No riots, no angry mobs, just people walking with purpose, their faces set in expressions of quiet determination. Her communication panel chimed. Analyst Xena Commander Tyxus appeared on screen, his scales showing clear signs of stress. Your report is overdue. Apologies, Commander. The humans are not behaving according to predicted patterns. She gestured at her data feeds. Observe their global market response. The screen shifted to show financial data. Every major human corporation had suddenly diverted all resources to military production. No panic selling, no market crash. Just a coordinated economic transformation that happened so smoothly it had to have been planned years in advance. Their medical ships, Tyxus noted. They are all returning to port. Not retreating, Xena corrected. Look closer. The feeds showed dozens of hospital ships like the Hope Bearers smoothly docking at massive orbital facilities. Within hours, panels began sliding away from their hulls, revealing weapon hardpoints that had been concealed beneath their pristine white surfaces. By the first egg, Tyxus whispered. They were armed all along. No, Commander. Watch the engineering feeds. They are being retrofitted. The humans designed their medical ships with military conversion protocols built in. They can transform their entire humanitarian fleet into warships within 48 hours. New data flashed across her screens. Deep space sensors showed hundreds of hidden shipyards activating throughout human space. Massive vessels emerged from behind holographic screens that had masked them as asteroids or small moons. Their response time is impossible, Tyxus muttered. Unless they planned for this exact scenario, Xena finished. Commander, I need to show you something else. The human leadership transition. The feed shifted to a military ceremony. A woman with steel gray hair and eyes like frozen nitrogen stood before a global assembly. Fleet Admiral Rebecca Stone. Her dress uniform bore no medals, no decorations, just a simple name tag and rank insignia. 20 years ago. Xena explained, this human was a battlefield surgeon. She saved 3,000 lives during the Mars colony crisis. Then she quietly transferred to their military strategy division. Her thesis at their war college was titled Defensive Protocols for Humanitarian Vessels in Hostile Space. Stone stepped up to the podium. The entire assembly fell silent. When she spoke, her voice carried the same calm precision as a surgeon announcing time of death. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, the Drachnid Empire has demonstrated their definition of power. They believe strength lies in destroying those who heal, those who help, those who save lives. Very well. We will now demonstrate our definition of power. She touched a control panel and massive screens behind her lit up with technical specifications. Operation Nightingale is now in effect. All reserved forces are activated. All sleeper protocols are engaged. The United Earth Defense Force is now at full mobilization. Stone's next words made Xena's scales turn pale. For those who wondered why Earth maintained such a large military budget despite our humanitarian focus, you now have your answer. For those who questioned why we required all medical personnel to undergo combat training, you now understand. And for those who dared attack our hospital ship. The Admiral's face showed no rage, no hatred, just pure crystalline focus. We are no longer healers. We are now the cure. Xena quickly encoded new data packets for High Command. Human ships were deploying in formation, their white hulls now covered in adaptive camouflage. Their weapon systems were unlike anything in Drachnid databases. And their tactics. Commander, she spoke urgently. They are not massing for a retaliatory strike. Their fleet movements suggest something far worse. They intend to systematically dismantle our entire empire. Tyxus studied the tactical displays, his outer membrane flickering rapidly. How? They have no experience in warfare. Their society focused on healing, on medicine. Precisely, Xena brought up medical diagrams alongside military schematics. Look at the similarity. Their ship formations mirror viral infection patterns. Their strike teams deploy like targeted antibodies. They are treating us not as an enemy, but as a disease to be eliminated. Their screens filled with new data as more human ships appeared. Their hulls bore a new insignia, a medical caduceus wrapped around a sword, and beneath it, words that made both aliens shudder. First, do no harm. But second, never again. Tyxus stared at the feeds in growing horror. We need to warn Admiral Vaxon. The humans, they are not coming for revenge. This is not about anger or hatred. No, Xena agreed, watching humanity's methodical preparations with a mix of terror and admiration. This is surgery. Admiral Vaxon stood aboard the Dread Sovereign's command deck, watching his border defense fleet patrol the Proxima sector. 30 warships, each a masterpiece of Drachnid engineering, moved in perfect formation through the starlit void. Their stealth systems were active, making them invisible to all known detection methods. Status report, he commanded, secondary eyes scanning multiple tactical displays. All quiet, Admiral, his sensor officer responded. No human vessels detected within 50 light years. Their remaining medical ships continue to retreat toward Earth space. Vaxon allowed himself a small gesture of satisfaction. You see? They understand now. They learn their place, or they. The sensor officer screamed. Where empty space had existed moments before, a massive human warship suddenly appeared. Its hull was midnight black, absorbing all light. More ships materialized around it, emerging from perfect stealth like ghosts, becoming solid. Impossible, Vaxon roared. Our sensors would have. Admiral, the weapons officer interrupted. That vessel. It is the Hope Bearer. Vaxon's scales paled. The ship before them bore the same elegant lines as the hospital ship they had destroyed, but transformed. Its pristine white hull was now covered in light-absorbing material. Where medical pods had been, weapon batteries bristled. The Red Cross symbol remained, but now it glowed with an almost predatory light. How did they copy our stealth technology? Commander Tyxus demanded. Strategic analyst Zena laughed bitterly from her station. Copy it? Look at their power signatures. Those aren't stealth systems. They are using modified medical scanning technology. The same sensors they once used to detect tumors in living tissue now pick up our stealth field emissions perfectly. All ships, battle formations, Vaxon commanded. Launch fighters and... The Hope Bearer fired. Its main weapon was a modified surgical laser, once used for microscopic operations, now scaled up to terrifying proportions. The beam sliced through 3 Drachnid warships as if they were tissue paper, their atomized remains spreading across space like blood spray. Return fire, Vaxon roared. But more human ships were appearing. Each one a transformed medical vessel, their healing tools twisted into implements of destruction. He recognized the Mercy's hand, now firing salvos of irradiated particles that bypassed shields completely. The Life Giver deployed swarms of automated drones that reminded him disturbingly of antibodies attacking an infection. Admiral Zena's voice shook. They are not using standard military tactics. They're formations. They are treating our fleet like a disease. Those ships in the rear are acting as immune response. The ones on the flanks are behaving like targeted antibiotics. A new vessel appeared directly above the Dread Sovereign. Its hull bore the name Hippocrates' Wrath. Vaxon had just enough time to appreciate the irony before it unleashed a barrage that shattered his flagship's primary hull. Damage report, he demanded, picking himself up from the deck. Critical, Admiral. They knew exactly where to strike. As if they had mapped our ship's vulnerabilities like a surgeon mapping surgical incision points. More human vessels emerged from stealth. The Hope Bearer's sister ships, each one transformed from healer to warrior. Their weapons were precisely calibrated, no wasted shots, no collateral damage, just perfect, surgical strikes that systematically dismantled the Drachnid fleet. Signal the second defense line, Vaxon commanded. We need reinforcements. No response. Admiral, his communications officer, reported fearfully. The second line. They are already engaged. The humans are attacking simultaneously across 100 light-years of space. Tactical displays showed the brutal truth. The humans had launched coordinated strikes throughout Drachnid space. Each attack followed the same pattern. Medical ships turned warships appearing from perfect stealth. Weapons designed from healing tools. Tactics based on medical protocols for treating aggressive diseases. Containment has failed, Zena announced, her voice clinical despite the chaos around her. They are operating on multiple vectors, just like an advanced immune response. Each strike is targeted at critical military infrastructure. They are excising us like a tumor. The Dread Sovereign shuddered as another blast from the Hope Bearer severed its starboard wing. Vaxon watched in horror as escape pods launched from his dying fleet, only to be precisely targeted by human interceptors. They are not taking prisoners, Tyxus realized. No mercy, no survivors. Why would they? Zena asked quietly. We showed no mercy to their wounded, no quarter to their healers. They are simply applying our own logic, with terrifying precision. A transmission cut through their communications network. Fleet Admiral Stone's face appeared on every screen. She looked exactly as she had during the mobilization speech, calm and focused. Admiral Vaxon, she spoke, as if addressing a particularly aggressive cancer. The Hope Bearer carried over 12,000 patients. Beings who had placed their trust in humanity's promise of medical care. You broke that trust. Now we will excise the infection you represent from the galaxy. You were healers, Vaxon snarled back. You dedicated everything to saving lives. Precisely, Stone's voice remained steady. We learned to save lives by fighting death in all its forms. We mastered biology to defeat disease. We studied anatomy to repair wounds. And now we will use that knowledge to eliminate threats like you. You should have realized, Admiral. The best healers understand exactly how to take a life. We simply chose not to. Until now. The Hope-Bearer's surgical beam lanced out one final time. Vaxon's last sight was his mighty flagship being dissected with medical precision, split apart along structural weaknesses that the humans had mapped like a surgeon mapping a patient's vulnerabilities. From her station aboard the dying ship, Xena transmitted her final report to High Command. The humans are not warriors who learn to heal. They are healers who learn to kill, and that is infinitely more dangerous. The battle ended exactly 47 minutes after it began. Where the mighty Drachnid border fleet had stood, now only surgical waste remained. The transformed hospital ships moved on to their next targets, their weapons precise, their purpose clear. Humanity had not simply learned war. They had turned medicine itself into a weapon, and the galaxy would never be the same. The grand war room of the Drachnid flagship Eternal Dominion hummed with nervous energy as Admiral Vaxon reviewed the latest battle reports. His scales had lost their luster, turning a sickly gray from stress and lack of sleep. Around him, tactical displays showed the systematic dismantling of his empire's defenses. "Show me the Arcturus engagement again," he commanded, all four eyes fixed on the central hologram. The scene replayed a Drachnid battle fleet ambushing a lone human supply convoy. Then the convoy ships split apart like seed pods, revealing heavily armed cores. Within minutes, the ambushers became the annihilated. "They have weaponized everything," Commander Tyxus observed, his voice hollow. "Even their supply ships are surgical instruments of war." Strategic analyst Xena manipulated the displays, bringing up new data streams. The humans have adapted far faster than projected. Their latest vessels show radical evolutionary improvements with each engagement. "Explain," Vaxon demanded, though his tone suggested he feared the answer. "They are treating warfare like a virus." Xena brought up comparative tactical displays. "Each time we develop a countermeasure, they mutate their strategies. These new battle formations, based on viral adaptation patterns, and their weapons." The displays shifted to show footage from their most recent defeat. Human vessels now launched what looked like mechanical antibodies, swarms of nanoscale weapons that devoured Drachnid ships from the inside out. Point defense systems proved useless against threats smaller than bacteria. "Admiral," a sensor officer called out. "Multiple contacts approaching the Proxima defense line. Configuration unknown." The tactical displays lit up as a new class of human vessel emerged from hyperspace. These ships were darker than space itself, their hulls covered in what appeared to be artificial tissue. Leading them was a massive flagship bearing the name Nightingale's Scalpel. "By the first egg," Tyxus whispered. "What have they created now?" The answer came in the form of devastating new weapon systems. The human vessels extended tendrils of dark energy, like medical nanites grown to astronomical scale. Where these tendrils touched Drachnid ships, the metal simply came apart at the molecular level. "Analysis," Vaxon demanded. "They have weaponized their surgical separation techniques," Xena reported, her scales pale with horror. "The same technology they once used to remove tumors without damaging surrounding tissue, but scaled up to capital ship size." The battle unfolded with horrifying precision. Human vessels moved like white blood cells through the Drachnid lines, their weapons systematically breaking down ships, stations, and defensive platforms. The Nightingale's Scalpel lived up to its name, cutting through the supposedly impregnable Proxima defense line as easily as a laser scalpel through flesh. "Counterattack pattern," Sigma Vaxon ordered. "Deploy the new shield harmonics." The Drachnid fleet responded, their ships generating overlapping energy fields that should have been impenetrable. The humans responded by simply changing their approach. Their vessels linked together, forming massive surgical arrays that bypassed shields completely. Sir Xena spoke quietly. "They are not trying to destroy our defenses. Look at the pattern. They are performing a military biopsy, testing our adaptations, analyzing our responses." "To what end?" Vaxon demanded. His answer came as the Nightingale's Scalpel suddenly altered its configuration. The massive vessel split into specialized segments, each one targeting specific weaknesses in Drachnid ship design. Like specialized surgical tools working in concert, they methodically dismantled the defense line. New contacts, the sensor officer's voice cracked. Hundreds of them. More human ships appeared, each class more terrifying than the last. The Pasteur's pride deployed fields that accelerated time within their radius, aging Drachnid metal until it crumbled. The Guardian's wrath released clouds of smart matter that functioned like targeted medicine, seeking out and eliminating specific ship classes while leaving others untouched. They are not just adapting, Xena realized. They are evolving their entire approach to warfare. Each ship class represents a different medical discipline turned to military purpose. Immunology, neurosurgery, genetic manipulation. They have weaponized their entire medical knowledge base. Vaxon watched as his mighty defense line crumbled before this onslaught of perverted healing arts. The humans had not simply learned to fight. They had transformed their greatest achievements in medicine into instruments of war. Signal from the Nightingale's scalpel, the communications officer announced. Fleet Admiral Stone requests your attention. The human admiral's face appeared on the main display. She looked exactly as she had during their first encounter, her expression one of clinical detachment. Admiral Vaxon, she spoke, as if delivering a diagnosis. Your latest adaptive measures are noted. Creative, but ultimately futile. You cannot develop immunity to what we have become. You were supposed to be weak, Vaxon snarled. Soft healers playing at warfare. No, Admiral. We were healers who understood precisely how biological and mechanical systems work, how they can be strengthened, repaired, or dismantled. You forced us to apply that knowledge destructively. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Consider this a terminal diagnosis for your empire. The transmission cut off as the Nightingale's scalpel began its final approach. Its massive form shifted again, components realigning into something that made Vaxon's scales crawl. The ship now resembled a vast medical facility turned inside out, every healing tool transformed into a weapon of war. All ships, emergency retreat, Vaxon commanded. But it was too late. The human flagship extended its array of surgical tendrils, each one precisely targeted. Drachnid vessels came apart with medical precision, split along stress points and structural vulnerabilities, as if they were tumors being excised. They are not just defeating us, Xena observed, recording what might be her final report. They are conducting a masterclass in turning healing arts to warfare. Every victory is a lesson in how medicine can become a weapon. The Eternal Dominion shuddered as the Nightingale's scalpel began its work. Vaxon's mighty flagship, pride of the Drachnid fleet, was systematically dissected by weapons born from healing tools. His last transmission to High Command was brief. We did not wake a sleeping giant. We created something far worse. We forced healers to remember that knowing how to save a life means knowing exactly how to end one. The battle ended with surgical finality. Where the Proxima defense line had stood, now only molecular debris remained, scattered like dead cells after a successful operation. The human fleet moved on, their weapons primed, their purpose unchanged. They had not merely learned to fight. They had turned their greatest acts of mercy into unstoppable weapons of war. And the galaxy trembled at the transformation. First Speaker Nixis stormed into the Imperial War Chamber, her ceremonial robes billowing as she confronted the assembled military command. The chamber's crystalline walls reflected her fury, amplifying her presence before the cowering officers. 300 systems lost in 6 days, she hissed, dropping battle reports onto the central tactical table. Our outer colonies have gone silent. The 7th Fleet is atoms, and now you tell me the humans approach the homeworld. Admiral Vaxon stepped forward, his once proud posture now bent with exhaustion. First Speaker, we have activated the legendary World Shield. 10,000 years of defensive technology protecting our capital. The humans cannot possibly. Warning klaxons shattered the tense atmosphere. Strategic analyst Xena burst into the chamber, her scales practically white with terror. They are here. The human battle groups. They came straight through the World Shield. Impossible. Nixis turned to the tactical displays. Nothing can penetrate. They did not penetrate it, Xena interrupted, bringing up sensor data. They transformed it. Look. The displays showed the mighty World Shield, a network of energy fields that had protected Drachnid Prime for millennia. But where the shield intersected with human weapon beams, it changed. The energy patterns shifted, rewrote themselves, turned inward. They corrupted our own defensive grid, Commander Tyxus whispered, like a virus hijacking cellular machinery. Above their capital world, the darkness bloomed with light as human warships emerged from stealth. The Hope Bearer led the assault, its medical cross now burning like an executioner's brand. Alongside it, the Nightingale's scalpel extended its surgical arrays, ready to begin the final operation. All remaining ships, launch Vaxxon commanded, defensive pattern. No First Speaker Nixus's voice cut through the chaos. No more patterns, no more defenses. You had your chance at warfare, Admiral. Now I will try diplomacy. She stepped to the communications array, broadcasting on all frequencies. Fleet Admiral Stone, this is First Speaker Nixus of the Drachnid Empire. I request terms. The response came instantly, but not in words. The tactical displays showed human ships halting their advance with surgical precision. The Hope Bearer rotated to face the capital, its weapons powered but not firing. Fleet Admiral Stone's face appeared on the main screen. She sat in what appeared to be a medical bay converted to a command center, surrounded by displays showing both tactical data and casualty reports. First Speaker Stone acknowledged. Your request for terms is noted. However, we have concerns about the infection spreading again. What do you want? Nixus asked quietly. Reparations? Territory? Resources? We want a cure. Stone's voice remained clinical. Your empire's ideology of strength through destruction is a disease. We intend to treat it permanently. The tactical displays filled with new data as more human ships arrived. Each one represented a different medical discipline turned to warfare. The Life Giver, now dealing death. The Mercy's Hand, showing no mercy. Ships that had once brought healing to the galaxy, transformed into instruments of its most precise destruction. You do not understand, Nixus tried again. We are an empire of 1,000 generations. Our traditions are now your terminal symptoms. Stone interrupted. You believe that attacking healers proved your strength. Instead, it revealed your fatal weakness. You never understood that those who heal hold the power of both life and death. Outside the war chamber's windows, the sky turned white as human vessels began their coordinated attack. Their weapons moved like surgical tools, precisely excising military targets while leaving civilian structures untouched. The legendary orbital batteries of Drachnid Prime, pride of their defense force, were systematically dismantled by weapons based on cellular separation techniques. Look at their formation. Xena observed with professional detachment, still recording data even as her world fell. Each ship specializes in eliminating specific targets, like specialized antibodies targeting distinct antigens. The Nightingale's scalpel demonstrated its purpose, cutting through the capital's defensive platforms with terrifying precision. The Hope Bearer's surgical beams lanced out, eliminating command and control centers with pinpoint accuracy. Not a single civilian casualty, not a single stray shot, just perfect medical precision turned to warfare. Your terms. Nixus spoke again, watching her empire's defenses fall. Name them. Admiral Stone's expression softened slightly, showing a healer's compassion even in victory. Unconditional surrender, complete military disarmament, and most importantly, your empire will undergo mandatory rehabilitation. Rehabilitation? Your society will be treated for its aggressive tendencies. Your military leadership will be quarantined until they no longer present a threat. And your people will learn that true strength lies not in destruction, but in preservation. The humans' final assault was a masterpiece of coordinated warfare. Ships moving like white blood cells through the capital's defenses. Weapons inspired by microsurgery eliminating resistance with atomic precision. And at the center, the transformed hospital ships, their healing arts perverted into unstoppable instruments of war. It seems Xena noted in her final report that we have provided the galaxy with an important lesson. Never force healers to become warriors. They understand far too well how things can be taken apart. First Speaker Nixus watched her mighty empire fall to the very power they had dismissed. The humans had not simply defeated them. They had turned the art of healing into the perfect weapon of war. And now, they would heal the galaxy of the disease that the Drachnid Empire had become. We accept your terms, she said quietly. Fleet Admiral Stone nodded. Treatment will begin immediately. And remember, first speaker, we were not warriors who learned to heal. We were healers who learned to destroy. You simply never understood the difference. Above Drachnid Prime, the Hope-Bearer's medical cross blazed like a star, no longer a symbol of healing, but a warning to any who would mistake mercy for weakness. The age of the warrior empires was over. The time of the warrior healers had begun. The surrender ceremony took place aboard the Hope-Bearer, in what had once been its main surgical bay. Admiral Vaxon stood rigid, his scales dulled with defeat, as he waited for the human commander. Around him, the pristine medical equipment had been transformed into weapons of terrifying precision, yet still maintained their ability to heal. Remarkable, is it not? Fleet Admiral Stone's voice came from behind him. She walked into the chamber wearing a uniform that combined medical insignia with military decorations. Every instrument in this room can still save lives. We simply showed you their other purpose. Vaxon turned, his 4 eyes taking in his conqueror. You planned this. All of it. The hospital ships, the medical research, the humanitarian missions. They were never just about healing. No, Admiral. They were exactly about healing. That was their true purpose. Their only purpose. Stone ran her hand along a surgical laser array, now capable of slicing through capital ships. Until you taught us they needed to be more. The room's holographic displays activated, showing the full extent of human space. Vaxon's outer membrane flickered in shock as he saw the true scope of their military capability. Impossible, he whispered. These shipyards, these fleets, they did not exist when we attacked. They existed in potential. Stone corrected. Every medical ship designed with military conversion protocols. Every healing technology developed with defensive applications mapped. We hoped never to use them. You forced our hand. She gestured, and the displays showed scenes from their campaign. Hospital ships transforming into warships. Medical tools becoming weapons. Healing arts twisted into perfect instruments of destruction. Your declaration of surrender is ready. Stone indicated a data pad. But first, I want you to understand exactly what your attack awakened. New displays activated. They showed human medical facilities throughout the galaxy, each one containing carefully designed military protocols, research stations that could become fortresses, ambulance ships that could deploy as strike craft. An entire civilization of healers who had prepared for the possibility that healing would not be enough. We studied anatomy to save lives, Stone explained, her voice clinical. That taught us exactly where to strike. We mastered biochemistry to cure disease. That showed us how to create weapons your shields could not stop. We learned cellular repair to heal wounds. That gave us the knowledge to take ships apart at the molecular level. Vaxon's scales rippled with growing horror as he realized the full scope of his mistake. You were never defenseless. No, we simply chose to heal rather than harm. A choice you took from us. Stone's eyes hardened. The terms of surrender are absolute. Your military will be dismantled. Your aggressive tendencies will be treated. Your entire society will be rehabilitated. And if we refuse? Stone touched a control, and the surgical bay's equipment hummed to life. Every healing tool turned weapon-oriented toward the Drachnid Admiral. Then we will excise the infection permanently. Remember, Admiral, a surgeon's knowledge of how to save a life includes intimate understanding of how to end one. The data pad floated before Vaxon, its terms clear and uncompromising. The mighty Drachnid Empire would submit to human oversight. Their military technology would be repurposed for peaceful use. Their society would be treated like a patient recovering from a dangerous illness. There is a phrase in human medicine, Stone noted as Vaxon reached for the pad. First, do no harm. We lived by that principle for generations. But you taught us its corollary. Those who know best how to heal also know best how to harm. Vaxon signed the surrender, his claws trembling slightly. What happens now? Now, we return to our true purpose. These weapons become medical tools again. These warships return to their humanitarian missions. Stone's voice softened slightly. But the galaxy will remember. Attack a hospital ship, and you do not merely provoke warriors. You force healers to become something far more dangerous. She turned to leave, then paused. One final thing. Admiral. The survivors of the Hope Bearer? The patients and medical staff your attack killed? We have carved their names into the hull of every ship in our fleet. A reminder that healing and harm are two sides of the same knowledge. Never forget what happens when you force us to choose the latter. The Hope Bearer's surgical bay hummed with quiet power as Vaxon contemplated his empire's fate. Around him, the instruments of healing stood ready to return to their original purpose. But now the galaxy knew their other capability, their darker purpose. The war was over. The healers could return to healing. But their message would echo through history. Those who save lives understand better than anyone how to end them. And mercy, once abandoned, becomes the deadliest weapon of all. Strategic analyst Zena stood before the Memorial of Healing, a massive monument erected in the heart of the rehabilitated Drachnid capital. The structure, crafted from the salvaged hull plates of the original Hope Bearer, stretched toward the stars like a medical cross transformed into a sword, then back into a cross. She recorded her final analysis, a tradition she maintained even 10 years after the war. A decade has passed since we learned the hardest lesson in galactic history. The memorial before me lists 12,412 names, patients and healers whose deaths transformed the galaxy. Above her, hospital ships once again plied the space lanes. Their white hulls gleamed with renewed purpose, though now everyone knew what lay beneath their peaceful exterior. The Hope Bearer's sister ships had returned to their humanitarian missions, their weapons concealed but never forgotten. The humans called it rehabilitation, not punishment, she noted, watching young Drachnid medical students hurry past, their scales bright with purpose as they headed to classes taught by human doctors. They rebuilt what they destroyed, healed what they wounded, but they made sure we would never forget. The new galactic order centered not on military might, but medical knowledge. Trade routes prioritized the movement of medical supplies. Research focused on healing technologies. The humans shared their medical advances freely, but kept their military innovations as a carefully maintained deterrent. Every hospital ship still carries its weapons, Zena continued. Every medical facility maintains its combat protocols. The humans return to healing, but they ensure the galaxy remembers they can do otherwise. She approached the memorial's central panel, where Fleet Admiral Stone's words were engraved. To heal is a choice, one we make each day, remembering both its price and its power. The stars above showed the truth of those words. Human medical ships brought healing throughout the galaxy, their crews dedicated to saving lives. But their hulls still bore the names of the Hope Bearers dead. Their medical tools remained ready for conversion, a constant reminder that mercy was a choice, not a weakness. The galaxy learned, Zena concluded her final report, that those who master healing master life itself. The power to save implies the power to destroy. We forced healers to demonstrate this truth, and we will live forever in the shadow of that knowledge. She placed her hand on the memorial, feeling the names etched into the metal. Above her, a new Hope Bearer passed in orbit, its hull pristine white against the darkness, ready to heal, ready to defend. An eternal reminder that the most dangerous force in the universe is not hatred or rage, but the calculated precision of healers forced to harm.